what is something that you wish would have been taught to you as you were growing up that would have better helped you deal with toxic situations as you got older?
Well, truthfully, no pity party, but I wish there was somebody that taught me.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel, I'm not going to say I didn't have a good childhood. I had an amazing childhood. But I guess I'm thinking after my dad left. Yeah. So like that period when I did.
Yeah.
I feel like I raised myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
How old were you when your father was completely out of your picture?
I was 12.
12.
Maybe 11.
Okay. So I look at my oldest son now, who's going to be 11, and I look at him and I can say there's a lot of growing up that needs to be done from 11 to when he's considered a young adult.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be 18.
Yeah.
Right? So you're talking from 11 to 18, that's a 7-year gap.
Mm-hmm.
And even 18, like people have this idea of when you turn 18, you grown.
Yeah. You're supposed to know everything.
You're supposed to know what next step you're going to take, what career you want for the rest of your life. Like, you can ask me now what I want to do for the rest of my life. I still don't know. Right?
What were we doing at 18?
What was I doing at 18?
Yeah.
Getting ready to have my first son. When my first son was born, I was 19.
19.
Yeah. So 18 was the pregnancy period.
Yeah.
Probably most of it. So at 18, 19, you're supposed to know, you're supposed to be a grown man and know what your life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to be a father, So your father walked out. I don't want to say walked out. Nah, he walked out.
I mean, yeah, he walked out, but there was conflict.
Yeah, it's struggles, right?
One thing I will say, for a long time, I had a lot of anger towards my dad. But then when you get older, you realize all the toxic behavior of your own parents.
Yeah.
And not just parents, but just family. And how we didn't see the big picture. All we saw was an absent father.
Yeah.
But there was a reason for that. Regardless of whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, being a single mother, a single father, like that affects a lot. I mean, regardless of whose fault it was. At the end of the day, that's critical.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's what I was saying, that I look at my oldest who is around
Yeah.
the age you were when your dad, was no longer in your picture.
Yeah.
And that is a big gap of learning.
Oh, yeah. Learning how to shave. I mean...
I know, especially because you got a full beard.
Just drive. Just different stuff like that.
Yeah.
That you just have to figure out. Yeah.
And some people will say, yeah, but my mother played the father and mother role. And shout out to those moms.
Oh, yeah.
There's moms that really step up to the plate.
Yep.
That play both roles, and they do a good job.
Oh, yeah.
Probably a better job than it would have been if the father was in the picture.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And I will say, my mom did play a big role. It's just a lot of things. Being young as a, I guess, Hispanic mother, you don't realize. I don't know. Maybe that. What do you think? Is it
like a cultural thing?
Is it a cultural thing?
It can be, but I ultimately believe that it's our individual choice.
Yeah.
To decide to stay in that cultural mentality or to break out of it. Right? I think culturally, how can I say it? I think the culture has an effect on it, or an impact, or it's a factor of it.
Yeah.
But we still have the free will of choice to say, I'm not going to continue that. I want to do better.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of things that culturally we kind of just sit in, you know, and we sit in that mindset.
Yeah. One thing before I forget, even, you know how we say, oh, you know, my mom or my dad doesn't speak English. They just know Spanish.
Yeah.
That's a choice. Like,
absolutely.
If I was in that position and my mentality right now, I would say I want to learn English for my children. So
yeah.
So even learning English that's a decision, that's a choice.
Yeah, especially when sometimes, you know, that parent or that person is here 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And you still can't order at IHOP. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to do better.
Yeah.
You know, and that's in general, you know. But something people don't understand, I feel like.
But I think I don't know, maybe it's just Hispanics that do that, because Asian people.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. When you're a second like you come from a second generation Hispanic household, like you and I, we're second generation, right? Because the first generation were our parents.
Yeah.
So I'm not even gonna get on that whole illegal immigrant. That's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
But the fact is, they was here.
Yeah.
You know, and they were basically like on survivor mode all the time. And it was just a getting here and establishing at least the minimum.
Yeah.
So that we could kind of just fit into a role, right? You're supposed to go to school, play the role, learn, you know, the language and all that, but not realizing how hard it was for them just to get to a place where we played the role.
Yeah.
And, you know, it I forgot where I was going with this. What was you?
I don't know. We were talking about how did we end up in race?
You said if you felt like it was just a Hispanic thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you like it's not to excuse, but when we're second generation, we have no legacy here, right? Our parents they didn't come with legacy, right? Like you said, Asian people usually have families of legacy.
Yeah.
Here, and so there's a history of establishment. You know,
that's true.
And you know, not and even Caucasian Americans, you know, even them, they have legacy upon legacy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a video one time that went viral, right? Where it's a bunch of kids and it's like coaches and they're about to run this race. And so the coaches are asking a number of questions that have to do with their personal life. And so, you know, like one of the questions was, if you grew up without a father in your household, take, you know, 2 steps back.
Yeah.
And so certain kids were taking steps back, right? And so the kids that weren't raising their hands, it almost seemed like their life was a little bit better. And the people who kept raising their hand, it seemed like their life was a little bit tougher. And so then when he got done asking all the questions, he told all the people that were ahead of all those people and said, you guys have a leadway in the race. So you will most likely get to the finish line. You're more likely to get to the finish line before all those people behind you. But those people behind you, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing
Where did
this.
I see this?
Yeah, so the people behind them, he says, they're behind you not by choice, but because of the circumstances that life gave them. And so it kind of really put into a visual perspective, I guess what I'm trying to say is, we had no legacy here. You know, so we're second generation. So it's kind of our duty to start creating a legacy.
That's true.
And so then it's easier for our first generation to kind of just stay in that mentality of survivor mode. And I'm just trying to survive for you.
Yeah.
And that's why you also see a lot in in our cultures that we give back to our first generation. Like one thing that's like frowned upon in our culture is to send your parents to a nursing home when they get old. You're supposed to have a room in your house ready for them for when they turn 60 years old, and you can take care of them. Right? Like we don't do nursing homes because you know that's like
we don't do that.
It's like a disrespect.
It is, and we can't afford it.
And we can't. Yeah, but I mean, I was just hitting maybe it's a Hispanic thing when you said that, but we go everywhere with these conversations.
We do.
Like these are deep conversations, but we normally do this, and that's why I wanted to come on here and kind of give people that side of you.
Yeah.